देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्णा
You know this one, Anthony. You know Anthony, who was
Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome PrasantaMataji among us. Mataji, can you hear us? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good to see you.
Good evening. Jai Ho.
Animal Himaruparada, some news here that okay.
Hare Krishna. On behalf of all the devotees from all over the world, Mataji, we'd like to offer our humble obeisances on your lotus feet. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving us the time. Dandavat pranam to you, Mataji. Do you have any slides? Can I make you the co-host?
Here we go. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so let me see who is here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam. Okay, so we'll have a little kirtan before we start.
Yes, Mataji.
Jaya Radha Madhava Vita Vikai Jaya Radha Vita Vikai Gopi
Mataji, you are muted. Let me try if I can.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can you unmute?
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yay.
So we are back, at least I am back, with the Bhagavad Gita studies based in Eldoret, Kenya.
Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnanandana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaykam Dadati Swapadam Tikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vacharam pangam langayate girim yat kripatamaham mante Shri Gurun Dinatanam. So we have reached verse 67 of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Tasvadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyatebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. So every time we read somewhere the word tasmat, we should understand that we come to some kind of conclusion. Therefore, what are we reading about? If you remember, Arjuna had asked a question that was in verse 54. That was a long time ago. Arjuna had asked a question, and we said at that time, he had asked, what are the symptoms of a self-realized person? And we said that the answers to this question run up to the end of the chapter. So today we are in the section which actually answers the last question. Vrajeta kim? How does he walk? How does he walk? And we had heard that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had explained these questions. How does he talk, and what is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? Meaning that actually it was about how does he respond when people insult him or praise him, or how does he respond to different circumstances in life. And Kimasita, what does he do when he does nothing, when he has nothing to do? What happens to him? And the last question, Kim Brajeta, was how does he behave when he acts, when he is active? So this is the question which is being answered here. And we saw that most of the section actually deals with control of the senses. And the few verses before coming to this that we were reading last time, actually we read the process of fall down, if you remember, and was explained there how one who is not Krishna conscious gets overwhelmed while contemplating the objects of the senses. It's very powerful. Material nature is very powerful. And the desire to enjoy in our heart is also very powerful. So if our mind is not matparaha, is not fixed in the Supreme, then when we contemplate the objects of the senses, our intelligence becomes deviated. And but here in this verse, we hear of the prajna pratishtita, which means when the intelligence is fixed. What happens when the intelligence is fixed? The main symptom And the fixed intelligence is the symptom of someone who is in touch with the Lord, who is self-realized, who is fixed in the Supreme. His intelligence doesn't get deviated. And the senses are completely under control. And so this sense control, in many ways, it is the goal of all yoga. It is, in one sense, a preliminary goal. The goal is, of course, to reconnect ourselves fully with the Lord, to have the darshan of the Lord, to have His eternal service. But the control of the senses is definitely the first thing to be achieved. So in these verses here, we see we are now talking of a person who is, this is started in 66. One who is no, sorry, there's a contrast which is being made. One who is in touch with the Lord has controlled senses, and one who is not in touch with the Lord has uncontrolled senses. So in this particular verse here, Prabhupada translates saying, therefore, Almighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. In other words, sense control is a symptom. It's a symptom of the intelligence being fixed. When the intelligence is not fixed, then the senses get attracted to the object, and they act whimsically. So sense control is the sign, the symptom of a self-realized person. When we hear of the qualities of a spiritual master, we hear Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. He must have heard in Guru Parampara, and he must be Brahmanishta. He must be fixed in the Supreme. And this fixedness in the Supreme, it translates that the senses of a person who is elevated in Krishna consciousness is that his senses are strictly engaged in Krishna service and do not do anything else. They do not deviate from that, because that is ultimate intelligence. If we understand we are not this body, we understand there is a Lord, we understand we are his servant. So what is therefore tasmat? What is the conclusion? The conclusion is we should serve him. So when the senses are thus engaged in Krishna's service, we must understand that at that time, the intelligence is fixed on the Supreme. Prabhupada translates saying, therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their object is certainly of steady intelligence. So, and restrained from their object, it means that they do not whimsically come in touch with the objects. They do not become controlled by the objects. We will read the purport. Srila Prabhupada said, one can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. So, curbing the mind, curbing the senses is not possible by human endeavor, Srila Prabhupada says. The human endeavor is the ascending process. We are trying by our own efforts. We have a willpower. We try by our willpower to control our mind, to control our senses. We make all sorts of plans. But it is not possible to actually control the senses or control the mind by human endeavor. The mind doesn't belong to us. The senses do not belong to us. The Lord of the senses, we must understand, is Rishikesh. He's the Lord of the senses. So when we give the senses to him for his service, then the senses are engaged by him, and then we are peaceful. We don't suffer all these urges, and we don't become overwhelmed, because the senses are controlled by the Supreme Lord himself. And then when we are peaceful in that way, then we can think of the Lord, we can advance in Krishna consciousness. So here, so the Lord is called here the superior force. This is an analogy, he says here. Enemies are curbed by a superior force. So similarly, the senses, which are sometimes compared to enemies, they will be curbed by the Lord only, a superior force. And by the Lord and by service unto the Lord, by engaging them in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, now this is a test for us here. Have we understood this? We will know whether we have understood this by looking at our daily activities. What we do from morning to evening. Are we engaging ourselves in Krishna's service, or are we doing something else? This is a when you say checkpoint for ourselves. What are we doing? Are we serving Krishna 24 hours a day, or are we engaged in all sorts of other activities? Are we struggling to serve Krishna? Sometimes we struggle to serve Krishna. We know it is time to chant, but the mind says, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? Something else to do. Did you remember to put out the garbage? Did you remember to refill the gas? Did you remember to... There is a list of other things that we have to do. And this is a very simple formula that Prabhupada has given us. There are 9 forms of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So we engage in these activities. And some are directly engaging the mind, like the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. And then some other activities are also engaging the senses, such as Archanam. We engage in deity worship. In deity worship, the mind is engaged and the senses are engaged. So this is a very important part of our devotional service, because the senses have to be engaged. So when we engage in Smaranam Kirtanam, basically the ear is engaged, and the jiva is engaged, and the mind is engaged, the intelligence is engaged. But there are more parts of the body. What about the hands? What about the feet? What about the nose? What about the tongue for the tasting? What about the eyes? What about, there are other senses in the body. So when we come to the process of Archana, the process of Archana is specifically designed to engage our senses. We walk to the temple. We offer obeisances. We bow down on the floor, and then we prepare for the arti. We engage our hands in making the giwiks and the garlands, and then it expands further than that. We build temples. Building a temple engages the senses of so many people. And there is a service which is called paricharya. Paricharya means to engage others in deity worship or in Krishna service. So we may not personally worship, but we engage people in worship. We organize the worship. We may not personally build the temple, but we engage so many people in building a temple. So the engagement of the senses is very, very important in Krishna Bhakti. And this especially in the beginning of our devotional life, where the consciousness is really expanded through the senses. It is explained that the consciousness expands into matter. When we come into this world, Srila Prabhupada said the consciousness either expands through the spiritual energy or it expands through and within the material energy. So currently our consciousness has expanded through the material energy, all the way to the tips of the hands. You can touch anything and you can feel there is a sense of touch. A consciousness is in the fingers, it's in the ears, it's in the nose, it's everywhere. So the consciousness has expanded throughout the material body. And we identify with this body. So especially when we are new to Krishna consciousness, and new doesn't necessarily mean that we arrived yesterday, but it means we have not progressed so much, and we are still in the bodily concept of life. So when we are in that consciousness, it's very important to engage the senses. Because if we do not engage the senses, they will bite us like serpents. They will deviate us from the path of Krishna consciousness. So the intelligent person surrenders to the process of Krishna Bhakti. There are two paths of engagement in Krishna consciousness. One is called the Bhagavad Marg, and the other one is called the Pancharatriki Marg. And the Bhagavad Marg is quite elevated, and it engages, as I said, it is the hearing, chanting, remembering. It's very direct. And it is the goal actually of our practice, because Krishna says, one who remembers me at the time of death will come to me. So smaranam is actually the goal of our practice. But it's not so easily achieved. So we are cultivating this. And at the same time, there is the Pancharatriki Marg, which engages not just the mind and the intelligence, but also the hands and all the different parts of the body in the worship of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada said that even collecting money, collecting Lakshmi to make a dress for the deities for Janmashtami or to hold a festival, that collection of money is part of Archana. It is part of the service to the Lord. And we all have different qualities. So between the Bhagavad Marg and the Pancharatriki Marg, we can engage all our qualities. Because in the deity worship, there are so many different activities. Cooking, for example, is an activity of devotional service. Decorating is an activity of devotional service. And we said collecting funds comes under devotional service in terms of worshipping the deity. There is also cleaning. That is a great part of worshipping the deity. The deity is a Sattvatanu, is the Lord and manifest, is worshipped in the mode of goodness. It has to be extremely clean. So we clean the paraphernalia, we polish the brass or the silver. We have to clean. There is laundry also to do. And the Lord has all kinds of towels and all kinds of things. We do the laundry. So in this way, our senses are engaged. And this is the strict path of the sadhaka. It says that one who is thus engaged and who understands that I have to perform these activities. I have to perform these activities. It is by performing these activities that my consciousness remains fixed. We should not neglect. We must understand when we come to Krishna consciousness the difference between material activity and spiritual activity. Karma and akarma. These spiritual activities are not mundane. They aim directly at connecting with the Lord, giving Him happiness. They are direct service to Him. And this is different from working for one's maintenance. Very different. So, of course, the devotees manage to dovetail whatever they do in Krishna consciousness by installing the deity in their home and dedicating everything to the deity. But still, the Navavida Bhakti are direct activities which are directly meant to please the Lord. So it behooves us to understand this point, that we must spend as much time as possible engaged directly in Krishna consciousness, as opposed to being engaged in all kinds of other things and not actually remembering the Lord throughout the day. There's a bit of a tendency for doing this. In the morning we wake up, some people don't remember the Lord for a long time, and then suddenly, oh yeah, Hare Krishna, right. And other people, as soon as they open their eyes, immediately pranam, offer obeisances to the spiritual master. First thing, as soon as we become conscious, we come back to the waking state in the morning, immediately we must remember the spiritual master. Fortunate is the person for whom the remembrance of the spiritual master comes immediately as he wakes up. And we must immediately offer obeisances. And what does that mean? Is immediately enter under protection. Like we hear the story of Shukadev Goswami, who was in the womb of his mother and didn't want to come out. It is said that he stayed there for 16 years. It's difficult to understand, but he had mystic power. He stayed 16 years in the womb of his mother, and he didn't want to come out because he knew that when I come out, the material energy will catch me. So similarly, we should be in that consciousness when we wake up in the morning. That I have woken up, Maya is all around. What to do immediately? Surrender. Immediately remember the spiritual master and immediately offer obeisances, which means asking for protection, putting oneself under the spiritual master's guidance, and saying very frankly, I am ready. Ready for what? For service. Whatever service today, I am ready. I'm ready to serve. Understanding that this is the only way to escape the grip of Maya. Otherwise, if we don't do that, and if we don't take shelter, and it should not be mechanical, it should be with the heart, with really a clear understanding. I need that shelter. I need that protection. Let me fall at the feet of my spiritual master early morning, at the feet of Srila Prabhupada early morning, and then proceeds through the day. Otherwise, what will happen as soon as you wake up? See, for people who are not Krishna conscious, you wake up, first thing is blah, 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 the tongue starts talking nonsense, all kinds of things. Next thing is the tongue, which is the first of the senses. The tongue wants to taste something. And next is we have tea in bed, and we have milk in bed, and we start eating in bed. This is the first activity in the morning. As soon as you wake up, all the senses are waking up. And especially the first one, the tongue. Yummy, you remember, okay, need to taste. The tongue needs to taste, wants to taste all the time. And so, and then what? What about your japa? We shall do that later. First thing is eating. But that is wrong. This is not what is, unless one is having some kind of disease or something which requires that as soon as you get up, you have to put something inside. That is a different story. But otherwise, you know, so when we wake up, we take shelter. Oh Lord, let not the senses catch me. Let's not Maya catch me. And please protect me. Now, wake up, first thing. The next thing is get rid of this bed. We don't want to see the bed again during the day. Not that you leave the bed available for the whole day to visit. No, we're not visiting the bed again and again the whole day long. The bed is folded in the morning, it is covered, it is somehow, cancelled. We are awake. And then the next thing is bathroom this way. Not that, oh, no, let me first check all my messages. Before I go to the bathroom, I have to check all my messages, 108 messages. There is WhatsApp, there is whatnot, there is Facebook, there is so many things. The Messenger, what a good name, Messenger. What has the Messenger brought this morning? So you have all these gadgets and all these applications all popping, what do they say? Pop up. So it's all popping up on your phone, and half an hour passes, 45 minutes passes, you're still not in the bathroom. You forgot that you're not supposed to eat before your puja, so start putting something in the mouth. Understand, this engagement in Krishna consciousness has to be understood as an urgency, because life is not that long, you see. When we are young, we think, oh, long time to go. I remember particularly the year 2020, that when I was a child, I don't know, somehow or other, I had calculated, till which year will I live, theoretically. Suppose you live, you live at least until 60, 70. So I had calculated, I was a child, I had a calculator, I said, wow, I will see 2020. I didn't know it was going to be the Corona year, but I thought I'm going to see 2020. And guess what? After 60 years, I'm here. I am in 2020. And I look back and I think, my life is almost over. Because this is what I thought, that at least I should reach till 2020. After that, not sure. So life is very short. There is one of the qualities of an advanced devotee, which is mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion. It is called Avyartha Kalatvam. Avyartha Kalatvam means that a devotee does not waste time. He has a very specific way of utilizing the time. This is for all of us to learn. We should work on it. For me, I have lots of work to do on that. I have no sense of time. But we must endeavor to use the time and to be always conscious that actually we do not have time. Srila Prabhupada was saying, 1 second of time which is gone cannot be gotten back, even if one can pay millions and millions and millions of dollars. It is so precious. Time does not return. It keeps moving forward. You never go back anywhere. You cannot undo what you have done. Whatever is done is done. So therefore the spiritual master gives us sadhakas. He gives us a sadhana. In the morning when you wake up, you do this, 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 and keep going and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, day after day after day after day. Now the non-devotees will say, oh, you do the same thing every day, all the time. I remember when I started going to the temple and when I joined the temple, Mangal Arati seemed to be just the same thing every day. Why do they sing the same song every day? Don't they have many songs? And why, you know, but when you actually you actually accept the process of Krishna consciousness, then you understand. There is an example which is given, which is that of the, there are stalactites and stalagmites, stalactites, I forgot which one is which. When you go in the caves, water is seeping and dripping from the top. The water is dripping from the top and it falls on some stones. At the bottom of the cave, there are stones. So it falls on the stone. And you see, water is very soft in terms of substance, texture. It's very soft. It's liquid. And the stone is very hard. It's a different nature. It's very, very hard. So who would think that when a drop of water falls on the stone, it's actually going to indent the stone? We couldn't think of that because water is very soft and stone is very hard. So we think the water is just going to drop on the stone and flow down, but not at all. The water will drip on the same place every day. And gradually, 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 there will be a hole in the stone. What makes that hole is the consistency that every day at the same time there is a pressure which is coming there, and gradually it will make a hole. So this is sadhana, that every day we do the same thing. And particularly in the morning. Not that after 45 minutes of answering messages, what happens after 45 minutes answering messages? The Brahma Muhurta is gone. I just missed it. You had gotten up early that day, but somehow there was this message there. So you went to the message and then you checked the photos and then you went to the next application and the next application. Then you check your mails, then you went to your notes and then you've ended up on Facebook and, you know, and Brahma Muhurta is over. So why? Therefore, as soon as we wake up, we must surrender and beg for the protection of the spiritual master. And we must have a clear plan. A, B, C, D. Then come out of the bathroom. What's next? Next is chanting. You get ready, you put on tilak. Putting on tilak is part of the sadhaka's life. It is also very important to put on tilak. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to put on tilak. In fact, tilak, wearing tilak, is part of Vaishnava initiation. The signs of a Vaishnava. One is the tilak, one is for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Kantimala. These are signs of the Vaishnava. It is to remind others, make them think, oh, why are they wearing this thing? What is this thing? These questions they ask will take them back to Krishna, because it is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. This is their first spiritual question, although they don't know about it. And it's also meant to remind ourselves all day long that I am a devotee. I am initiated. I don't go sit in the pub. If there is no Kantimala and there is no tilak, well, sometimes I may end up in the pub because nobody knows I'm a devotee and I don't know either. So these signs of being a devotee are very important. Srila Prabhupada said that we may or may not wear devotional clothes, but even when we wear regular clothes, we should keep the tilak. Of course, this is, sometimes there are circumstances in certain countries or cultures where it will cause us too much trouble to be visibly a devotee. But still, tilak must be applied immediately after bath every day. Every time you take bath. If you take bath 3 times tilak. Immediately after bath, we mark the body with the sign of Lord Vishnu. Sometimes we say it is the temple of Lord Vishnu. What we do actually is that this body is like, it's a space, it's like a universe. And we are putting the Lord in all the directions. Why? What for? It spiritualizes the body and brings protection to the body and to our engagement in devotional service. If we cannot wear a visible tilak, at least we can make tilak with water. Put some water in the hand and do the same. You put the top part and then you put the lower part is a tulsi leaf. You can put it with the water. Nobody will know, but your body will have been spiritualized and will be protected. So this is very important. And it fixes the consciousness. It increases Krishna consciousness. All these little details keep us in Krishna consciousness. And if we start being negligent with them, we will pay the price. Bad price. We will not be able to remain fixed. So we put on the tilak and then we dress. And the next thing is mantra. It is the chanting which comes next. Or the worship. It can be the worship or it can be the chanting. So, of course, some people have duties at home, sometimes that divert them from this. They have to first do the cooking. Well, cooking is part of deity worship. Or they have to do the cleaning, or sometimes they have to go fetch water, or they have to do so many things. In any case, one should try to maximize and protect one's morning time. Wake up early enough so that you can at least do some chanting before starting other activities. And for those who chant in the morning, definitely you will find a difference. If you see 2 persons, one person joins at the age of 20 or whatever, and is serious, wakes up in the morning, chants every day, tries to chant with attention day after day after day after day after day. Another person also joins at the same time, is also 20, but is lousy. Chants, next day doesn't wake up, then tries to chant, sometimes 16, sometimes 8, sometimes 25, and sometimes 2, and sometimes, what will happen? Usually, you will not see the difference immediately. It's like the water falling on the stone. You don't see the stone melting immediately. But after 15 years, after 20 years, those two persons who joined with equal opportunity somehow will not grow at the same speed. One will elevate himself, become a leader, become a leader in many fields, become peaceful, will become fully engaged. And the other one will be perpetually complaining about all the ills of our society, or will be complaining about his own life, or will be, why? Because the senses have not been controlled. The senses have not been engaged in Krishna consciousness. And there is no way to control the senses other than by following the order, the path that is being given by the Mahajanas. We have to trust the process of Krishna consciousness, even if it doesn't look like it is effective. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam that we are advancing in Krishna consciousness imperceptibly. Very interesting word. Imperceptibly means we don't see the change. We just don't see it. We don't see the change day by day or minute by minute. We see the change after a long period of time. Just like we see a hole in the stone after many years of the drop of water falling on it. So we must keep our faith strong by reading the Bhagavad Gita, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We must keep our faith strong that this process is 100% proved. It's proven by those who walk the path before us. They achieve success. So we can also achieve success. But we have to be consistent, and we have to be determined, and we have to be sincere, and we have to surrender. Surrender to the process. Surrender is not something sentimental. Oh, I'm fully surrendered to Krishna. Yeah. What time did you get up this morning? Oh. Did you chant your rounds? No. So where is the surrender? Here Srila Prabhupada says in this purport here, very interestingly, that one who understood that only by Krishna consciousness one is really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a spiritual master is a sadhaka. So surrender means to follow the order of the spiritual master. It's not something sentimental that I am very surrendered. I always give this story of there's a story, maybe I told you before, just I find it a little funny, and it's very clear story. It's very clear, a story of a wife who is all day long missing her husband. Husband has gone out. She's a housewife. So husband goes out in the morning and he goes to do work, business, whatever. And he comes back in the evening. And when he comes back, the wife is very happy. Very, very happy because she missed him all day. And the husband is also very happy to see his wife. So they meet. And she is almost crying and she's very emotional. And she said, oh, I missed you so much. I was thinking about you all day. I was missing you so much. Okay, very nice. Next, husband says, I am hungry. Obviously, he was out all day. So he says, I am hungry. And the wife said, oh, hungry. Oh, well, I have to go cooking. And the husband is like, you mean it's not ready? No, I'm really hungry now. So this is like, Prabhupada gives this idea that it's not sentiment, love, surrender. These are not just sentiments. No, it requires practical activity. One who really loves will not just think and lament and miss. No, will think positively that when the person comes back, he will be hungry, he will be this, he will be that. So there is a sense of service. If the love is really there, a real love, then there will be service. Otherwise, it is just an idea. It's a dream. And it is self-centered. I'm so much missing Krishna. I'm so much missing Krishna. I am missing Krishna. I am missing. And the concentration is on one's own self. It is not on Krishna. So when we want to follow the spiritual master, it's not about Gurudev, how are you doing? It's not about Gurudev, I love you so much. It's not about that. It's about Gurudev said, Vani. Gurudev said, I must do this, this, that, and I do it. And that's my love for him. That's my surrender to him. Not lip service. It is my surrender is to do what he says and to follow the sadhana. And this is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Consciousness is something which is cultivated. It can be enhanced or it can become covered. It can be uncovered or it can become covered. And it's according to what we do. It's according to whether we associate with the spiritual energy or we associate with the material energy. Anushilanam, it is called. There is Anushilanam. The cultivation, Krishna Anushilanam, engagement in activities that will enhance our consciousness. So this is our business. And we have to learn that when I hear about Krishna, I become more and more aware, I become more and more conscious. I develop the desire to serve him and so on. And when I watch movies or when I read the newspaper or when I speak prajalpa, my consciousness becomes covered. My desire to serve decreases. So we are not really in control of the consciousness exactly, but we can choose to serve Krishna. And it requires the mercy of the spiritual master. So this is our endeavor here. We see we become a suitable candidate for liberation. Who is the candidate? One who is endeavoring. So we have to keep going, keep endeavoring. And sometimes you may say, oh, but mujhse nahi hota, they say in Hindi. I'm not managing. I don't manage. I know, you're right. That's what I should be doing. I should not be drinking tea when I wake up in the morning or dude with some sweet things inside. I should not, do this. I should not do that, but it happens. And as we know from the Bhagavad Gita, what is the reason for that? It's because we are under the control of the lower modes of material nature, kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. And because of the desire to enjoy, we are pulled into sensual activities which are not connected to Krishna. So you may say, oh, I just try, but I can't. I try. But actually, devotional life or spiritual life is about trying. So we should not give up. Because the senses, it will take time, for the senses to become curbed and to come under the control of Krishna. So we are all trying. Not that I'm the only one who's struggling, everybody else is having an easy time. It's not like this. We are all struggling, and we are all. And the good news is that Krishna is called the one who is very much merciful to the struggler. So that's a good news. That's the good news of the day. That Krishna is merciful to those who are struggling. Because he understands we are making an effort, but due to our baggage, we are not successful every day. This is called anishtita bhakti, unsteady devotional service. And it is the preliminary phase of sadhana bhakti. So it's like that. We go through that. There's a beautiful verse which has been composed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Of course, it's rather a little bit more elevated than just the struggling of an, beginner sadhaka. It is more somebody who is aspiring for bhava, or who is in bhava. But at the same time, it is very nice to meditate on. It goes like this. Na prema shravanadi bhakti rakiva yogo tava vaishnavo jnanam va shubha karma va kiyadhaho sajjatirapyastiva hinarthadika sadhake tvaitat yathaya mula sati Hey gopi jana vallabha yathayate ha ha mathasve namah. This is actually under the section Ashabandha, again, nectar of devotion. Hope against hope. Keeping the hope. We must keep the hope. We must keep the faith. We must keep going. At the same time, we look at ourselves and we know, na prema, I don't have any love for Krishna. Shravan adi bhakti rapi va means my sadhana is a mess. So I don't even have, if I don't have love of God, at least I should have a sadhana that's going to take me there, which means I should chant, I should hear, but that is not going straight. So I don't actually have a good sadhana which is going to lead me to prema. If I can't do that, at least I should practice yoga. But that also I'm not managing to do. Jnanam va. Okay, so then I should follow the path of Gyan. And I should meditate on the Lord, and I should try to distinguish matter from spirit, but that I don't manage. Shubha karma va. Well, at least the people who go to Krishna or who can come to Krishna, they are the ones who are a bit pious, but there is no trace of Shubha Karma in me. I am not somebody who performs pious activities. I don't look like a pious person. So it is like somebody who is like introspecting inside. I don't have prema. I don't have a good sadhana. I'm not a yogi. I'm not a jnani. I'm not a pious person. And the proof of all this is I didn't even take birth in a good family. Sat jatir api va. So I did not take birth in a good family. Looking at my birth, the kind of body I have, the kind of family I was born in, the kind of place I was born in, which is the case with most people, it indicates that I'm just a sinner. I'm just somebody who in previous life has not served the Lord, has not been good. And somehow in this life, I got this chance to come in contact with devotees. So there is a lot of despair while looking at one's own performance sometimes. But then Rupa Goswami says, this is when I think of myself. When I think of myself, I become totally hopeless. I become depressed. I become hopeless. I will never make it. But then I start remembering you. And I have heard that you are especially merciful to the struggling sadhakas. You are especially merciful to those who are low and fallen and who call upon you. And when I remember that, when I remember that, then I become hopeful. I become full of hope that if I depend on you, everything will come. So this we should know, that whatever credit we have may not be so much sometimes, but Krishna is there. This is the advantage of Krishna Bhakti, is we are not alone. The Jnanis are alone, the Yogis are alone, but the Bhaktas are not alone. Krishna is there, and he will reciprocate. He will help us. We just have to turn to him. Matparaha. We have to fix our mind on him. We have to try again. Just by trying, Krishna is pleased. He's not mean. Krishna is not looking at how many times we fail. He's just looking at our endeavor. This is our hope. Very merciful person. So we hope that Krishna will be merciful to us. And this is the life of the devotee. But we don't just, as again, be a sentimental, hopeful person. Practically, we engage our senses in devotional sense. So I will stop here, and we can take some questions if you have any questions. I saw one question was already typed here by somebody.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you very much. I'll read out the question, which is from Shomya Prabhuji. To survive, we need to do some work every day. If we will be engaged ourselves in Krishna service from morning to evening, then how will we survive? Kindly guide us in this regard.
Okay, so two answers to this is first answer, because we have no faith that Krishna, Prabhupada said, Krishna feeds the ants. He feeds the big elephants in the forest who eat 1 ton of food per day. So why shouldn't feed us? So some people, see, there are different stages of our development in Krishna Bhakti, in spiritual life. Some people come to a certain point where they clearly understand that Krishna is my maintainer. Goptritve Paranam Tatha. Krishna is my maintainer. He will maintain me. When I was born, milk came in the breast of my mother. It was ready. So Krishna is ready to maintain his devotees. So some people have advanced over different lifetimes, have advanced sufficiently to come to this conclusion that I don't have to work independently. I just serve Krishna and he will maintain me. But not everyone has this understanding, which is okay, it's fine. Next thing is, we must learn how to serve Krishna in all circumstances. So you say you have to do some work and all. So it is true, especially for those who have accepted the responsibility of family life. One has to do some kind of work to maintain the house, to maintain the children, educate them, and so on. So for these people, Srila Prabhupada has given some, what do you say, guidelines. He has told us what to do. And first thing to do is, again, engage in the service of the deity. That the deity should be installed at home. And when this deity is installed at home, and the members of the house actually consider the deity as the owner and leader of the house and dedicate everything unto the deity, then their everyday activities become spiritualized. You go to work, at the end of the month you get a salary, or you do business, you get some whatever income. What to do with that income? The first thing is to understand Lakshmi does not belong to me. Lakshmi belongs to Narayana. So what do I do with this money that comes to me through my work? It goes to the deity. It goes home, it goes at the feet of the deity. And then it is used to maintain the house, which in this case happens to be the deity's house, which means it's a temple. So Prabhupada told us very clearly, and Lord Chaitanya also said, we do not have to change our position. We must change our consciousness and see how we can connect everything to Krishna. So yes, we may have to work in a factory, in a job, in a business, someplace. You may have to work in an office. You may have to work in a hospital. And so try to make things as spiritual as possible. If you wear tilak while working, you are preaching. If you maintain your principles of eating only prasadam, you are preaching amongst the non-devotees that you are always living with on a daily basis. You can keep the Bhagavad Gita with you, you can have some things to hear. You have to maximize the engagement in the Navamida Bhakti. And as I said, whatever you earn, you should be careful how to, what to do with it, how to engage it. Part of it should be donated. It should be gifted, either to the temple or Vaishnavas who are not earning. In the Vedic understanding, there are 4 ashrams. Out of the 4 ashrams, only 1 ashram is earning, and the other 3 are not earning. They depend on Krishna. So those who are earning actually have to maintain not just their family, but they should also maintain those who are not doing anything for their maintenance, but they do other things. They serve Krishna directly, they maintain the temples so that the Grihasthas can go and visit the temples. They study, they distribute knowledge, they establish gurukuls, they establish schools. They are very 100% active in the mission. So there is a way to spiritualize one's activities, and that is an art. You don't have to change your position. You have to change the consciousness. So, and then, somehow or other. And remember always that Grihastha life is not forever. Now, this is a very new concept in the modern society. That Grihastha life is not forever. Normally, when in this age, people don't even marry. And when they marry, they divorce most of the time. So things are not going very smooth. Or they marry and they are so much stuck with each other that they can never conceive of a day when they will be separate. So, but according to the Vedic scriptures, there are 4 ashrams. And the Grihastha ashram is actually, it's there for minimum 25 years, 20 to 25 years, which is the time it takes to grow children. But if you have spent 25 years in your Grihastha ashram, there should be a little bell ringing somewhere at the back of the head. There should be a little bell ringing that I've been in this ashram for 25 years. What's next? There is next. Next is the Vanaprastha ashram. And this should be adopted by all the Grihasthas, which doesn't necessarily mean that they have to separate, but they have to change their focus from maintenance to Krishna Seva. So work on the consciousness, how to connect everything to Krishna, and have the goal in front of you. This is a period of your time, of your life, 25 years, sometimes 30 years, that somehow you have to go through that. What is the aim of this Grihastha ashram is to actually reduce the controlling propensity, because we enter that ashram due to our desire to enjoy, due to our lack of, feeling secure. We are feeling quite insecure. We feel incomplete. We need relationships. We have emotions that need to be engaged. So we have needs, and we cannot deny them. And because of these needs, we enter the Grihastha ashram. But it's not forever. And the Grihastha ashram is meant to get us rid of those needs and attachments and passions. And it will happen if we practice Krishna consciousness side by side and put Krishna in the center. So then it's okay, you just go for your work. But sadhana has to be there in the morning or any time. Sadhana has to be there. And we have to endeavor, really, mentally. Srila Rupa Goswami speaks of the mental cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Learn to think of Krishna. So these are some few things that I can say about this. You have to spiritualize, make the deity the center, spiritualize the activities.
Okay, Mataji, there is another question. I will read that question out, and there is, I know Varshna Ishani Devi Dasi has a question as well. Let me go to the chat and then go to the hands. Hare Krishna Mataji, this is a question from Bhumit Bhattase. For certain people who are working individuals, they tend to spend most of their day at their workplace. Despite waking up early in the morning to chant and do service, it may not be enough service. How can we engage in service despite these busy schedules?
Well, as I said, it's a question of consciousness, that something can be done, the same activity can be done with a material purpose in mind, and the same activity can be connected to Krishna. So we have to work on that, how to connect everything with Krishna. And it is understood that in the beginning of our life in Krishna consciousness, there is more material activity and less spiritual activity. It is understood. And we have to look towards the future. You have to always contemplate on the future and see that it's not always going to be like this. Normally, you see, when we practice Krishna consciousness, the taste for Krishna consciousness will increase. And as the taste for Krishna consciousness increases, we will want to spend more time with Krishna. But it's not artificial. You cannot just jump, from this to that. No, you have to let it happen. Yes, but you should endeavor. Everyone should endeavor for sadhana. It takes an endeavor. Yeah, because see, when we were not a devotee, we were busy 24 hours a day, at least like, how many, 16 hours, 18 hours. We were busy, and suddenly we meet Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita, and now we have to squeeze into this busy schedule 2 hours of japa, 1 hour of reading, visiting the temple, and then the temple wants us to do this and this and that and that and this, and we have to hear classes, and of course we go mad initially because we were already fully busy, and suddenly we have added another agenda. So you have to give it a little time, because things will adjust themselves automatically as our taste. Oops. Okay, let's see where we are. Yes, we are back. We had a little accident. we had a little accident, online accident.
It's okay, Mataji. We understand.
So, right. So you have to give it time, and the proportion of material engagement and spiritual engagement will change with time. It will change with time. It will change as the grihastha duties decrease. When the children get older, they become independent. So the duties decrease. You have to retire at some point from your job or your business. This is advised again. This is vanaprastha. It's advised by the scripture that at some point one must retire. And the characteristic of Kali Yuga is people don't retire, especially those who are in business. Those who are employed usually kind of retire at some point. But those who are in business, they don't retire. Those who are in a government post or who have some responsibilities or they don't retire due to ignorance. They don't understand that, by the age of 50 normally, one should retire. And otherwise 55, 60, one should understand that it is time to shift to more spiritual activities. Why? Because the mind has to be fixed on Krishna, and it takes practice. It's not going to happen on its own at the time of death. We have to practice. So we have to keep some time, and we should be very clear that after the age of 50, the body will start changing. Up to the age of 50, it's kind of, you have energy, you have this. But after the age of 50, there's going to be it's called dwindling. There will be a dwindling of the body, sometimes dwindling of the mind also. We won't be able to memorize, we won't be able to tolerate certain things, we will lose our attention span. These things are possible. So we should not wait for very long to engage in Krishna's service. But it has to happen naturally. The more we want, and we'll make space, and we will replace one activity by the other. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this, that as we progress in Krishna consciousness, we develop a taste. And somehow we squeeze in more and more and more and more of Krishna, and we just eject other activities. So be patient, and it will happen.
Prashanta.
Yes.
Yes. Bhumit is a very, very young enthusiast. I know him for 1 year, but he's made so much progress. I was very happy to see him on the program today, you know. He's very, very young, but very sincere, very serious, from Nairobi. Govinda's baby. Tell him to show his face to everyone. Bhumit, show your face to everyone. Continue. Don't want to force it.
Bhumit, okay, we are seeing. Hare Krishna. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mataji, there is another question, but just as we are talking of retiring by 50 or at least by 60, for example, there are devotees who are older, like 55, 60, but they are still working, but they support lots of projects, ISKCON projects. For example, our Eldoret center has been sponsored by Path Prabhuji, Pundrik Prabhuji. So he is providing a service even while earning. So is that okay?
Well, that means they have learned how to spiritualize their business.
Yes. Yeah.
Learn
So
how to.
not working, but engaging in Krishna service.
He's not working, he's a businessman. And he's on the Zoom program. Prashanta knows him very well.
Okay, I didn't see him, but I was just giving an example that he
No,
had.
I have seen Prakash from the beginning. He's on my screen.
Oh,
Yes.
Prakash and Radhakun.
Yes.
Haribol, Haribol. Okay, without much ado, let me go to the next question.
So let me see, you know, this is good. It is definitely good, you know, engaging the fruit of one's business to pursue so many projects and so on. Yes, it is good. It is certainly good. But the individual also may want to do a little introspection and see whether they feel comfortable with it, how much more they can continue doing that. Usually when you do business, you accumulate funds. So, and the idea is that, you know, at some point you have to see whether you want to keep accumulating more and more and more and more and more, or you just had enough of that. And it's not, even if one is contributing a lot to different projects, still one has to consider one's personal spiritual life and sadhana and so on, and see whether it is still suitable. Because when you pass the age of 60, you know, these kind of external activities, which are definitely full of anxieties, tension, pressure, you have to meet contracts, you have to meet people you don't want to meet. At a certain age, usually there is a change in the psyche, and one is not suitable anymore to take this kind of pressure. So, and we can also, so it is good in one sense. It's not, it's good, but one should think also whether this has to be continued forever. And the measurement is how much am I remembering Krishna? How much is my mind fixed on Krishna? How is my chanting? If the chanting and everything is super energized and one is very strong spiritually, and so that's one thing. But if one is not like that, then we have to think, because there are not many years left to work on Krishna consciousness. And, you know, Krishna uses different people at different times. And Krishna can find someone else to fund the projects. Krishna can do so many things. He can do so many things. We are not, all of us, you know, in whatever we are doing, we are not as essential as we feel ourselves to be. Krishna works through different people at different times. This is valid for any activity, any service, any position that we hold. We think that if I leave this position, then the whole thing will, you know, crawl down. But if we pray and pray to Krishna, bring another person, you know, Krishna uses different people at different times for different functions. And sometimes we are a businessman, another time we can become a teacher, we can do other things. So I'm just, you know, giving some general idea that things can happen in different ways. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji. There is a question from Varsana Ishani Devi Dasi. Kindly
Yes.
ask the question, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances unto your lotus feet and Vrindavan Dham. PrasantaMataji. Hare Krishna
Yes.
Mataji. Mataji, my question is to you that I want to know, I'm a single mother. I'm staying with my parents from last 6 or 7 years. But what happened to me last month or couple of months, there is so many options coming out in front of me of sense gratifications and so many things of that which is make my mind divert from there, and I'm very surprised that I'm affected with that. How can I tolerate that things? How can I what should I do to deal with that? I don't understand that. With the same time, I'm feeling very guilty that what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about this all things, why I'm thinking about this, and with that, with the repairing my mind and my consciousness, I'm doing my sadhana very well. I'm doing my sadhana, trying to very best way, taking advice from the senior devotees, and I'm trying to follow them too, but still I'm attracted with those sense gratification and object. So this is very, I'm feeling very guilty with it. And to be very honest, please give me the right answer. What should I do? How can I come out from this all things? Hare Krishna.
Yes, so we go through different periods in our life. Our life usually is a reflection of different, even though we are not under the law of karma in one sense, but still we suffer at least the minimum reflection of different activities we have performed in the past and so on. So we go through different phases in our lives. Sometimes we are through some phases where everything is working fine. We are surrounded by loving people. money is not a problem, we have a place to stay, and everything is going well, and the mind is also peaceful, cooperative, sattvic. And then suddenly, over a few years, everything changes and we are surrounded by enemies. And suddenly we lose our job, and suddenly this happened, that happened, this happened, and the mind becomes crazy. And the mind starts, thinking about what it should not be thinking of. And the mind doesn't want to chant, and the mind doesn't want this, doesn't want that. So always it is advised that's why you have to remain fixed in the sadhana. Even if you cannot do as good a sadhana as you used to do before, but you must keep going with your sadhana, because this is the only thing which will be purifying the mind. So you must keep going with the sadhana, you must keep reading as much as possible, hearing as much as possible. You must do like this, you open your mind to the devotees, take their help. You have to go, this seems to be some kind of period of, negative influences, negative reactions. You are not the mind. You are not the mind. You are not the body, and you are not the mind also. So just neglect that mind and do as much service as you can. And do not feel guilty, although it is good in one sense to feel guilty, but you should not feel guilty to the point that you become disempowered and depressed and you can't chant and all because you're so bad and you're so terrible, and you develop such a negative impression of yourself which will be destructive. So understand that my mind is going through a phase, and I will have to tolerate it without being disturbed. This is the instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. You must tolerate without being disturbed. So this without being disturbed means continue your sadhana. Whatever happens, even if somebody at some point in their life become a sinner, still they should continue their sadhana. They should, because Krishna is looking and seeing, when everything is going good, it's easy. But the test is when things are not going well. Where will we take shelter? At that time, where will we take shelter? And if we take shelter in Krishna in times of difficulties, we will reap a great benefit. So this is of course very difficult when we start going through difficult times like this, but it is not hopeless and it is not forever. Krishna says, Dukhalayam Ashasvatam. So first bad news is it's Dukhalayam. It's a place of suffering. Next good news is it's not going to last. So neither happiness will last nor suffering will last. At some point, it will be over. So you just have to wade through this period with great faith that Krishna, and the holy name of Krishna, will work and will, finish those clouds. So you have to keep your faith strong and don't condemn yourself. It is said, hate the sin, not the sinner. Take shelter in Krishna. Understand the soul is good. But due to our association over many lifetimes in this material world, the mind has become not so good. But you are good. You are good. You are a devotee of Krishna, and your duty is to serve him. Whatever the mind says. When it says yes, good. It says no, anyway, you have to chant. And even if the chanting becomes mechanical, even if the chanting becomes inattentive sometimes, because the mind is taking you on a tour all the time, still you chant. It doesn't matter the quality of the chanting. What is important, is the surrender to the chanting.
Thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Are there any other questions?
Prashanta is not tired. She doesn't need to retire, yeah? So we can all stay the night with her. Yes?
No. We are going to bed now.
We don't seem to be in a rush at all, Prashanta.
I'm very happy to see you all, and today especially happy to see Pundarik Prabhu. Very, very happy to see Pundarik.
Also, Prashanta, I think your Yogesh was there without his, what do you call it? The video as Yogi's iPhone. I think that's Yogesh.
Okay.
Oh, somebody wants to talk to you.
Mataji,
Prashanta has a question.
Bhumik Soni, Prabhuji, he wants to talk to you. And then there is a question from Prahlad, and that would be the last one then. Bhumik,
Okay.
can you please talk to Mataji, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
his mom. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji.
Okay, continue, please.
Yeah, okay. Hem Rupa Mataji has connected me to you. And I'm glad that you're using our products. I'm Dr. Mamta Soni from Surat.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay.
The perfume, Mogra perfume and that gulab jal which you are using for Govinda, that Dr. Mamta Soni sends for you.
Oh, you are the soul, the source of that. Very nice. Wonderful. Yes, thank you.
Need your blessings, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Dandavat Pranam.
Because you accepted the gifts and you are using them for Krishna, so she has now started to become Krishna conscious in the lockdown. Attending her classes regularly, Bhagavad Gita classes.
Govinda Kripa.
Yes.
With Hem Rupa Mataji's advice, I'm following all those things. And with your blessings, maybe, yes.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Thank
glad that you like our products. So need your blessings, Mataji.
Yes, they are very nice actually. Yes, thank you.
And it's reaching to Krishna. It's a great achievement, I feel. So more and more blessings.
Be happy in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Prahlad, can you please ask your question? That would be your last question.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mataji, now what I wanted to ask was, I believe that sometimes Krishna tends to test us in some ways, like many times, and it still continues. I'll be offered like two options to choose from that I don't even know which one to choose. Both are good and I feel happy about them. But still, if I take one, I just feel that I left the other one out. Like one time there was, here in the temple, we were going for a house-to-house program. So I was told either to go for that house-to-house program or for another house-to-house program that another place was doing. So I could not decide on which one to do. So I just decided to go with the first one.
So
So Yeah. So does this mean that in somewhat way, Krishna tends to test us on what options we choose in life?
Prashanta.
Yes.
Prashanta, he's a 16 or 17-year-old boy
16.
who 16, right? Who's lived
Yes.
in the temple all his life. He was in Nairobi. You know Sadhna, I think. Her son, they're in Mombasa temple now. Not full time, they do jobs, but they've lived in temples all practically from the time Prahlad is born, definitely in the temple.
Can we see you, Prahlad?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you see me now?
Let me see. Where is Prahlad now? He's gone somewhere. Here, yes. I've met your mom. Yeah. Yeah, so life is perpetual, constant, succession of choices that we make. We make choices. We have to learn how to make the choices with reference to Krishna, with reference to Lord Chaitanya, to the mission, to Srila Prabhupada, to what's good for preaching, what's good for our own Krishna consciousness. We have to learn how to make the choices in relation to Krishna. Because material life means we make the choices in relation to me. In which program am I going to have more fun? We can think like this. What will be the best for me? For me. So in Krishna consciousness, usually we accept some authority here or there. And we work under that authority. So if they tell us to go to program A, we go to program A. And if they tell us to go to program B, we go to program B. And we are an instrument for distributing the holy name, or we are an instrument to serve, to perform some kind of service. So it truly doesn't matter if we go to program A or program B. The consciousness should be to either always learn something. We are in search of the truth. We want to learn. There will be a lecture, there will be a kirtan. We want to learn. And if we are, in some way capable of distributing Krishna consciousness, either by singing or by speaking or playing instruments or carrying the mridanga, doing some service, then we should engage in the service. And we should feel ourselves as an instrument to help others come to Krishna consciousness. So the choices are always there, all the time. We choose Maya or we choose Krishna. So the choices have to be made with reference to Krishna as much as possible. We try for that. And it's a test, yes, sometimes it's a test. Krishna is testing. And sometimes, like, if you pass the test, then quickly you advance. If you don't pass the test, then you're going to go on a tangent and you're going to make the experience another 2-3 times before you get it. So it's true, yes. Sometimes there are tests. The whole life is a test, I think. And depending on how we respond, we come closer to Krishna or we go further from him. So choices are important, and the way to make choices is, as I said, to follow an authority or ask for advice, and always be a little introspective and understand, the purpose. What's the purpose of my choice?
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prahlad.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much for spending 2 hours with us. Thank you so much. I will hand over to Path Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, Mataji. We are so grateful, Mataji, for your wonderful class. And also we thanks you devote your time for us in every Saturday. It's a pleasure for us. And you are enlightened as the Bhagavad Gita. And my request is that, our prayer is that, by the mercy of Lord Shyam Sundarji, okay, Krishna Balaram, and also your blessings, so we can engage our senses and mind in the service of Krishna consciousness. Please bless us so that we can progress. Also, I thank the participant who has joined, they devote their time, the 2 hour time. It is so long also, but they are patiently listening. Wonderful lecture from PrasantaMataji. We thanks. Also, I thanks His Grace Pundrik Prabhuji, who is giving his time. He is the main sources, main inspiration of ISKCON Eldoret. On behalf of ISKCON Eldoret, I thanks to His Grace Pundrik Prabhu. Also, I thanks all the participants who is joined here. And this is a regular program, and a Zoom program. We have in Kenya time, it is 8 to 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. So if possible, you can join. Different speakers will come to enlighten the Bhagavad Gita. So on behalf of ISKCON Eldoret, I thanks everyone. Especially I thanks PrasantaMataji for glorification of her PrasantaMataji, and also glorification of all the devotees that are joining. We are chanting Hare Krishna mantra once. Please join with us. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna PrasantaMataji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for inviting me again today. I'm certainly very happy to serve the Kenyan Yatra, and I'm very happy to serve Pundarik Prabhu in his field of preaching there, and serve Manasi Ganga, my very dear friend, and serve all of you.
Mataji, you make a plan when the situation is over, then you can make a plan especially for Kenya, like a Khushbu Eldoret. There is a new devotees. You make the sessions so that a minimum 1 month, 2 months per year.
Yeah,
that's a tall order. However, just pray she gets a passport fast. The minute Corona thing over, she'll be in Kenya. Okay.
Yes, good.
Yeah, I'm actually missing my visits to Kenya, but Pundarik Prabhu knows my situation, and plus now the Corona has come, so that's a different situation. But maybe by next year, if Krishna arranges, in 2021, maybe I am, things don't depend on me right now. I am going through some a situation that I have to wait for the result. And if everything goes well, maybe in 2021, I could again visit Kenya, be very happy to.
Cool.
And hear the lions.
In Kisumu. In Kisumu.
That's in Kisumu. Oh,
Yeah,
we have
Kisumu.
lions.
Kisumu.
Mataji, same time next Saturday?
Yes.
No time?
Thank you very much,
Let me
Mataji.
see. 1 minute, we will see for next Saturday. Which date is it exactly?
Next Saturday is 24.
24. Okay.
Yeah.
I confirm.
Next
We are
Sorry,
just,
25th. Yeah, 25th.
25th. I don't know if I will let you know 1 day in advance whether this is possible. We are just now in the VIH in Vrindavan about to open our courses. which are all courses online this year. We are not receiving any students because of the corona situation. So we have put the courses online. On the 21st, we are inaugurating the first Bhakti Shastri online. And on the 25th, we are opening the Bhakti Vedanta Part 1 online. So the 25th is going to be quite a big day for me. I'll be in touch with Manasi Ganga and let her know whether I can actually do the class. So
Prashanta, not one day before, okay? We also need to organize speaker. You have to let us know at least 2-3 days before. Sawa, okay.
Sawa.
Sawa. Haribol, you go, let everyone go to their kitchen and feed their husband and children. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tell us about the Bhakti Shastri course as well. If you can send us the link, if there might be devotees who would want to join from here.
Sure. I'll send the link. Yeah, I don't know to whom. To whom should I send?
You can send it to me or
Kirtika. No, Kirtika. I'll get you. Prashanta, Hare Krishna. We'll talk about this, all right? So you go to all the India people who are there from Rachna to all the others, they should also
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
10:30. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare
Marupa, Yoganananda, Hare.
So many from India. Very good.
Yes, Hare
Krishna. I would like to thank all the Kenya devotees for allowing us to attend this class today. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
It's our pleasure. And thanks to Prashanta. She told me to ask you to come.
Yes, good. It's okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.